Welcome to Corporate Board Members Informational Webcast. My name is TK Kerstetter with Corporate Board Member, and I have the pleasure of having a chair today that serves on a public company that is going to discuss with me the issue of board diversity. And it's my pleasure to welcome my guest, Kay Koplovitz, who's the chairman of Fifth and Pacific Companies. And Kay, the first issue that I want to talk about is I had the pleasure of being at the Society of Corporate Secretaries conference last week, and Ralph Whitworth was one of the keynotes, and Ralph is a well-known activist that heads up relational investors, and he gets on a lot of boards, sort of muscles his way on those boards, and when he's on those boards, he told the crowd that when his boards already have 5 sitting CEOs on it, he tries to put in a policy where the next new director will be a non-sitting CEO that has no previous board experience. Now, I have to tell you, when we're talking about diversity, that is a pretty unique way to develop a diverse board.
Well, it certainly is. It gets out of groupthink, that's for one thing. I don't think he should have to wait until he has at least 5 sitting CEOs on the board. It could be fewer than that. He should still implement this policy because there is more diversification in our population and in the global economy today than ever before, and things are changing at a more rapid pace. If you only have groupthink sitting around the table, I think that you will not see how your customer base is changing quickly enough to really respond in today's world. So the way to get different people sitting around the table with different points of view, different experiences, is first of all say the next candidate will not be a sitting CEO, because we know that sitting CEOs are mostly white men, right? The preponderance of them are. So if you want to get out of that, you have to put that in as a qualification, or you at least have to consider it, non-sitting CEOs, and even retired CEOs, and then a non-board member. That is very interesting, but how do you, everybody becomes a board member for the first time sometime if you're a board member. I certainly did, and it was about 25 years ago, and it was a brand new experience and a learning experience, but each of us has to learn at some point in time. So I think he's taking a little bit more radical step to diversify the board, but I laud it because I think unless you start thinking differently, personally, I think that boards today ought to be looking at much younger board members. So much of the communication, I don't care what industry you're in, so much of the communication, so much of the way companies operate today, much more a flatter management style. This youth has more experience with that than somebody who served in companies for 30, 40 years, became CEO, was retired. I mean, they don't have the same experience in managing companies the way companies are today. So I think that there's a big argument in my mind for saying a first-time board member is assuming this person has some qualifications in the area that you're looking for to add to your board, I would say that would be a good person if you have a lot of experience sitting around the board that can bring this person up to speed.
Great way to be a mentor, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, there's a challenge in front, and I know I'm almost afraid to give you this question because I know how passionate you are about this topic. But we did a joint study with Spencer Stewart, and they just released the information. This presents a little bit of the hurdle and the mindset that exists out there today, but the results showed that 57% of directors still feel that there is a shortage of qualified directors, qualified diverse direct candidates. Mm-hmm. So we know that we don't know how they define qualified. So that's a risk in this analysis. But I know that you and I don't feel that there's any shortage of qualified candidates.
Well, I certainly don't, and I would say if you can't find qualified, diversified candidates, you're not looking in the right places. If you're going to look at all the same places, and we know that 10, 20 years ago, most of the board members, and even today, most of the board members are brought in by somebody else on the board. Well over probably 70% of board members are recruited among people that are already sitting on the board or from somebody who knows somebody on that board. That's sort of the process that goes on today. Search firms don't, probably do 30%, 35% of the board searches today. So, if you're going to just go out to your friends, as it used to be, people you know, people you feel comfortable with, people who look like you and think like you, you're going to have the same kind of groupthink. So unless you get out of those circles and look in different places for people, you're not going to find them. It's easy to say they aren't there if you're not looking. But if you're looking and you're making a mandate and it is a priority to say, every search that we do for this board shall contain X% of diversified candidates, meaning candidates of different gender, of different ethnic background, of different racial background. There are lots of, or in today's world, geographic, international backgrounds. You have to be able to diversify in different ways today, I think, to really maintain your competitiveness. And so you're selling your board short if you don't.
Well, and you've been active in helping us with this, that we have our Moving the Needle, which is building effective boards through adding diversified candidates event that's happening. And I'm happy to report that we have over 150 qualified candidates. Out of this, we will be sending a book that includes all those candidates and their backgrounds to the CEOs, chairmen, and nom-gov chairs. So what's your gut? What do you think is going to happen when this book of such qualified candidates hits the desk of the nom-gov chair and there happens to be an opening?
Well, I hope they'll take a very good look at the candidates in this book. I have to say, I give a lot of credit to the New York Stock Exchange Euronext for this initiative, putting a spotlight on diversification. And not only putting a spotlight on it, it's one thing to talk about it, it's a completely other thing to do something about it and to really put together this roster of very qualified candidates. People can't say we can't find any qualified candidates. That would just be an excuse, because here they are, they're being presented to you. And I think that hopefully these candidates will be in demand, because they are being put forth by myself and other people who are participating, CEOs, people on the nom-gov committees, chairmen like myself, are saying, here are the candidates I consider qualified. They're all coming with endorsements of people who know what it's like to serve on a board, or know what it's like to have a board that they're reporting to. And so I think that this is a very different initiative. It's not just talking about it, not just telling people that diversity is a good thing. It's saying, it's not only a good thing, we're going to help you. Here is the first list of 150 qualified candidates. Now, we're going to make it easy for you to find them. Here they are. And so I hope this is the first of many initiatives where we bring new candidates, new thinking. I personally think that boards need to start looking at these younger candidates, people in their 30s and 40s who are achievers, let's say in the technology businesses and so forth, because everybody is every kind of company is being affected by the rate of change and change of how we communicate around the global world today. And I think that we need to have the knowledge of these people sitting around the table. We have plenty of people that know how to deal with the difficult situations. We've all been going through difficult recovery from the financial problems that are facing. The challenges of operating in a global environment, competing against global companies. We're all going through that, but we have lots of people now sitting around our boards that are qualified, have a long history and experience in operating. We can bring in some fresh blood, some new thinking, some different perspectives, and I think we'll be better for it.
Well, I'm sure that will be the case. It's interesting to me that, and you made reference to this, we are smack dab in the middle of social change. I mean, if you look at our markets, if you look at our customers, if you look at our staffs of our company, if you look at our kids, okay, if you can't see the social change that has occurred, it is all around us. It has not yet hit in the C-suite or in the boardroom at the level that's all around. But you can't stop social change, okay?
No, you can never stop the future. It's coming.
Right. So when you look at a company has a choice of either embracing or they have a choice of ignoring, at which point we may have our social change mandated to us. So what do you say to a company that can't see that and says, I'm not going to embrace this change?
I think that, you know, we're talking about quotas, and we know that several European countries have instituted quotas on the boards to have a certain number, percentage of women, 40% in Norway, 40% in Spain, a club membership, not exactly a quota, in Britain for 30%. France has instituted a quota system, I believe. You know, so they're doing that, and they're doing that as a part of social change. I don't think it's the accepted way of going about it in America today. I think that we should set goals, and I think that we ought to put pressure on ourselves and our companies, and I think shareholders should put pressure on the companies they hold stock in to say we need to address these changes. And I think that companies need to set goals, need to really work at achieving those goals, and then there won't be quotas. But if this goes on for a much longer time, I think that, you know, if a decade from now we're sitting here and having the same conversation, I think quotas will be in place by then. So I think it's time to take it seriously, set our goals, and say we can achieve these goals. There's an organization out there called 2020 that says we want 20% of board members to be women by the year 2020. And there are those of us who say, well, that's a start, but 50-50 is where we're going.
Yeah. Well, if anybody can't feel the passion that you have for this subject, I'm not sure that they have their volume turned up well enough on this show. But I want to thank you, as usual, for coming and giving your time and your comments. And that will conclude this informational webcast. And we hope you'll join us again when we take a look at another critical issue that will help you be a more effective board member. We'll see you then.
Thank you.